Hey everyone, I'm Anita Liu-Harvey and I'm the Global Payment Strategy Director at Spotify. So I'm responsible for shaping and delivering our future approach to payments. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about how Spotify has evolved its subscription service over the years and how our payment strategy has been a critical enabler to growth. So first, I'll reflect on how subscriptions are evolving the way that consumers interact with services. And then I'm going to take a step back and look at the journey that Spotify's been on since we first launched back in 2008. I'll touch on how our payment strategy has been core to enabling this growth and expansion. And finally, I'll reflect on how we look to continue to add value and drive our services forward in the future. So there's no doubt that the pandemic has accelerated the rise of the subscription model. And there's been a big change in the way that consumers are actually engaging with products. In particular, we've seen a big shift in the way that consumers perceive ownership. So it seems that today, we care less and less about owning a good, and we're actually happy to simply have access to it. But in return, we want access to a really great product or service. So the most successful subscription services out there today are focusing on delivering access to high value products and services. And that can include wider choice and greater flexibility, great content, as well as increased personalization. We at Spotify recognize this shift quite early on, and our customer relationships are built on the pursuit of connecting creators and fans at massive scale and giving users access to the broadest catalogue of content, and then using our technology to help them navigate that content, tailor and discover their favorite creators in a way that's personal to them. And our freemium model is also a key differentiator for us in our industry, because it means our relationship with our users is not always a transactional one. Engagement is absolutely key for us. The bottom line is, we not only need to make our service as compelling as possible, but we also need to make the act of accessing it as frictionless as possible. And then we need to ensure that that access is uninterrupted for as long as the consumer wants it to be. And finally, we're constantly looking for ways to deepen engagement. And I guess that's both between our users and Spotify, and also between our users and the artists and creators on our platform. And we do that through introducing and enabling new products and services continuously. So before we jump into Spotify's subscription journey, I actually just like to take a step back now and briefly touch on our mission, because that underpins everything that we do at Spotify. So that mission is to unlock the potential of human creativity. And we do that by giving 1 million creative artists the opportunity to live off their art, and billions of fans the opportunity to enjoy and be inspired by it. We've come a long way in working towards this mission, but it's definitely a journey that we're still on. So we started that journey 15 years ago, back in 2006. And there's been many key milestones along the way, and some of these are central to the subscription model and how we enable customers to access our service. So as I said, we started the journey in 2006, and we first launched Spotify in 2008. And back then in 2008, we launched one service in one market, and that was our single user subscription service in Sweden, our home market. So since then, we've come a long way. We've been busy expanding our geographic reach. After Sweden, we moved beyond our home market, expanding into other European markets around 2009. And then 10 years ago, we launched in the US, and we've moved beyond that since. Last year was a big year for us. We expanded into the rest of Europe, going live in Russia and 12 other markets, which completed our European coverage. And then this year, we've added a further 80 markets back in February, and that's almost doubled our global coverage. So things look very different today when we reflect on where we were back in 2008. We're now operating in 178 markets. We now have 365 million users, of which 165 million subscribe to our paid premium service. Not only that, but we've also invested heavily in expanding our range of subscription plans and propositions. So as well as the standard premium plan that we started out with, we now offer a range of different plans for families and students and couples. And in the same time to sort of expanding our subscriptions coverage, we've been investing in building out and helping to deliver the mission. So for example, we've been investing heavily in our podcast proposition and adding original and exclusive content there. And our advertising business remains a core part of our freemium business model. So we've continued to develop that over the years. Building out our two-sided marketplace has been absolutely fundamental to our mission too, to enable creators to connect and grow their audiences on our service. So what does this all mean? Well, it means that now, today, we're one of the largest merchants for online payments in the world. And that means it's critical that our payments infrastructure operates efficiently and effectively. But not only that, it needs to be flexible and scalable enough to achieve everything we want to achieve in the future. And what makes it especially interesting is, as we continue to grow and diversify as a business, payments are becoming increasingly complex at Spotify. All of this impacts, of course, our future payment strategy, which is what keeps my job interesting and fun. But when it comes to subscription payments, from a payments perspective, our job is to make sure that the customer can pay, fully understands what they're purchasing, and is easily able to access the service. And that means the payment has to be as frictionless as possible, and that this access continues in an uninterrupted manner. And to do this successfully, we look at many aspects that take us all the way through the life cycle of a customer's relationship with Spotify. It goes without saying, but before you even get to the checkout and the customer payment, you have to deliver an optimized and compelling path to that checkout. As I touched on earlier, our freemium model differentiates us within our industry. And actually, the vast majority of our users start out as free users. So that presents an opportunity for us to build trust with our customers, as well as providing a platform for the natural discovery of our paid premium service. Our 200 million free users is proof that you can build engaging relationships that become transactional later and allow customers to move between free and paid while staying engaged with the platform and the service. So, after this, the first port of call is, of course, product market fit and ensuring that we're offering the right paid subscription products for each market. From a geographic perspective, now that we're operating across 178 markets, customizing our service and proposition to local markets has been a major focus for us. There's different needs and preferences in each market, and over the past few years, we've evolved from that original one-size-fits-all subscription model to offering multiple plans and tiers and product variations. So a few examples of this. We offer annual subscriptions in Germany, as this is what consumers prefer there. And almost the opposite of that, we've recently launched Spotify Mini in Indonesia, which offers daily and weekly plans. And where it makes sense, we also customize our music catalog to cater for local tastes. Beyond product market fit, offering the right mix of payment methods is absolutely key to maximizing our reach and conversion in each market. I'm sure, as many of you know, cards are very popular in developed markets, but there are hyper-local payment preferences in many of the high-growth emerging markets. And at a global scale, you have to expand the range of payment methods you offer to meet these local preferences. And that's something we've been busy doing over the past couple of years. So for example, cash payment methods are very popular in Latin America. So Boleto in Brazil and OXXO in Mexico are a couple of examples here. But if we move over to the other side of the world, e-wallets are the preferred online payment methods in many Asian markets, such as Indonesia, Philippines, Thailand, and South Korea. From a Spotify perspective, we also offer a wide range of carrier billing options to reach up the unbanked users across many of the countries that we're live in. And actually, most recently, we're starting to see a growing preference for account-to-account payment solutions around the world, whether that be UPI in India or Trustly in the Nordics. But aside from geography, what's been interesting is we're seeing an increasing divergence in consumer payment methods between different segments and demographics, particularly for Gen Z and millennials, where mobile native payment methods are particularly popular, such as Venmo and Square's Cash App, and as well as buy now, pay later methods, such as Klarna and PayPal Credit. What this means is that we're continuously having to monitor changing consumer payment preferences to ensure that our users can buy from us in the way that they prefer. And managing and expanding an increasingly diverse portfolio of payment methods across these different countries and products is actually increasingly challenging for us. We have to ensure that we've got the payments mix right. And so that means constantly evaluating and optimizing the conversion funnel in each of these markets. Beyond payment methods, I think number 3 on the list here is fraud management, which is another constant focus for us. So I think as many as you know, the successful fraud strategies are about finding the right balance between letting the good guys in and keeping the bad guys out. And that's a really fine line. Whilst we want to keep fraud to a minimum, we also need to ensure that our fraud controls are not too stringent, as we'll be declining a lot of genuine users if this is the case. And these so-called false positives can be really damaging to the customer relationship and not good for business. So it's really important for us to get that balance right. The other challenge is that fraud is a constantly evolving space. So nothing stands still for long in the fraud space. Some of the best innovators out there are fraudsters, and they're always looking for new ways around our controls or new loopholes to exploit. So we continuously have to monitor and adapt our fraud strategies to stay one step ahead of them. We'll look for new data to enhance our machine learning fraud model, for example, because that helps us identify fraudulent activity and new trends out there. And last but not least, payment lifecycle management and optimization is absolutely critical for subscription services like ours. The initial transaction, so that first transaction, is just the start of the customer relationship. With subscriptions, each ongoing payment is a signal of the customer's ongoing engagement with Spotify. So, we focus heavily on avoiding payment failures where we can. Otherwise, those payment failures can result in customer churn. And that's even when the user continues to be engaged and satisfied with our service. I mean, basic things like keeping customers' stored payment details up to date and being smart about when and how we attempt recurring payments helps to minimize unnecessary failed transactions. And throughout the lifetime of a customer payment relationship, we also need to maintain transparency and ensure that the customer is clear on why and when they're being charged, as well as giving them clear access to cancellation processes. We're actually seeing this become a regulatory requirement in many markets across the world. So we also have to cater for the local requirements there and ensure that we're customizing the approach for each of the different markets. So with subscription services, nothing stays still. You constantly have to deliver value and consistently look at ways we can improve service and increase personalization to the user. And that's everything from the first interaction and throughout the entire lifetime of the relationship. As I mentioned before, it's not a one-time exchange of value, and it's something that we can't and we don't take for granted. And so what does that mean? It means we're constantly focusing on delivering the broadest and deepest catalogue of content. It also means we're offering new formats and types of content and experiences. For example, podcasts have been an incredible format for creativity. In addition to the core music streaming service, we now have over 2.9 million podcasts on the platform. And that's alongside our 70 million plus tracks and 4 billion plus playlists. We've also introduced new audio formats, such as Music and Talk, which give users the ability to interact with music within the podcast episodes. And that's kind of in the same way that they can interact with all other songs on Spotify. So, for example, liking and saving and reading more information about a track without ever having to leave the episode page or search for it manually. We're also adding live audio discussion formats on platforms like Spotify's Green Room. What we're seeing is that audio formats and concepts are continuing to evolve at a fast pace, and we're really excited to be working with artists and podcasters and content owners and creators all over the world to help define what comes next. I think creating increasingly personalized experiences is also front of mind for us at all times. Earlier this year, we launched Blend, a feature that means you can automatically combine the tastes of two very different users to create a playlist for you and a friend. And it goes beyond our traditional sort of collaborative playlist functionality, and it makes it easy for users to get into a social listening session that's made just for them. Overall, we're constantly looking for ways to deepen fan and creator engagement. All of this represents a huge opportunity for us to deliver engaging services and experiences to our users, whilst creating the ongoing challenge for payments to enable this in a way that's as frictionless and as flexible as possible. So that's all for today. Thanks for joining me for this session. I hope you found it useful, and I hope you enjoy the rest of FinTech Connect Asia.